Welcome to this episode of Dead Last, the show where we rate all of your favorite horror movies. And in honor of St. Patrick's Day, today we are doing the Leprechaun movies. Figured that should be obvious. And I should note that when I say we rank, I mean a group of people consisting of me, my panel, and my patrons on patreon.com, who all submitted rankings of the 8 films in this series, from number 1 being the best to dead last being the worst. The scores are then just added up to give the film its total, and we had it was 23 people send in rankings for this episode. So here are the patrons that actually participated in this one, and keep in mind that the lowest score that a film can get in this episode is 23 points. That's if everybody picked the same movie to be number 1, and the highest score, the worst score that it could get, would be 184 points. And we also got the rankings from the panel. Let's check out my panel for this episode, because we've got a couple of surprises in store today. And returning to the panel once again is the amazing Derek from HalloweenShindig.com and Shindig Radio, which you can find on Spotify and iTunes and so many different places. Okay.
I hope I haven't checked. I don't know. Check it out. Type it in. See where it is.
Yeah. And next up on the panel, returning once again, is Brawlin' Bo. Bo, welcome back. And
hey, thanks for having me once again, man. I'm looking forward to this. It's going to be a wild ride here in Leprechaun Land.
If you haven't already, it's important that as soon as you finish watching this video that you go on Instagram, check out Hobson Horror, and watch him review movies and brewskis, and lots of good stuff there as well too. What's coming up?
I think we're going to do the next Tops and Horror is going to be House of a Thousand Corpses. We've gotten a lot of requests for that, so I think we're going to go into Rob Zombie world and review the classic cinema of House of a Thousand Corpses.
One of my favorites.
I don't believe you.
Also on the panel, once again, Mikey down there. Welcome back, Mikey.
What's up, guys?
Mikey makes so many masks, all of the masks, and he apparently has a huge fascination that I was unaware of until right now with Masters of the Universe figures.
Yeah. I mean, not that huge. Like I was saying, I don't have anything in card, but I do have this.
I know that character. That's Gwildor from the hit movie Masters of the Universe.
Exactly. He's basically the Eternia version of the Leprechaun, so it's perfectly.
And now for the final member of our panel, we've got a very, very special surprise, a very special guest that I'm extremely, extremely excited to have on board. And it is Mr. Gabe Bartalos, who is the special effects genius that created the Leprechaun. We're so excited to have you on board.
Glad to be here, Josh. Thanks.
You've been involved with 6 out of the 8 of these movies.
Yeah, it's cool. I remember when the studio then was called Trimark, and I think maybe the full script or pages that had a rough description of the Leprechaun were in it. And I was getting some notes from the producers that had some ideas. And it was one of those things that as an effects artist, you learn very early not to do, to follow the notes and follow. And, you know, you want to do good and serve the film. But that just started getting in the way. And I remember at a point of frustration, I said, you know, I'm going to just go back to what initially jumped in my head. And Warwick Davis wasn't cast at that point. So I took a generic head cast and sculpted a really aggressive version of what I pictured it. I put a wig on it and maybe even put a hat on. And those photos that I submitted locked it, got me the job. They got really excited. And in fact, very little was changed from that sculptural design. It just really, I reworked it when Warwick was chosen to play the part. It was pretty cool.
Well, it's a great design. And if you don't know who Gabe is, he's a legend in the industry. You've been involved in so many things. You also have directed a film with Warwick Davis that is now available called Saint Bernard. That just looks right. I have not watched it yet, but it looks right up my alley. and it is available on severantfilms.com. I'll put a link up there so people can check that out. But you can also either rent it or purchase it off of Amazon if you choose as well too. But it also Warwick is in there as well too, because you guys are friends, I believe, right?
Yeah, I mean, after doing 6 films together, a friendship was created very early on, and yeah, it was really interesting because when I'm on set, watching Warwick be directed someone else, that's fascinating. Director comes over, mumbles notes, and then Warwick goes and does his thing. So you're an outsider in that, in a sense, a third party. When it's something you've written and now you're there lensing it as the director, and Warwick now brings it to life, it totally is fascinating and gives you another level of appreciation for an actor's talents, in this case, Warwick's talents, like, wow, I'm writing this kind of far out absurdist stuff. And he kind of grounds it, legitimizes it, and then, it just makes it real. It's really cool. So, I think you'll like St. Bernard. It's pretty far out and probably will be your cup of tea.
But we did not have Gabe rank the movies because we thought it might be not so fair. Number one, to ask him, because I feel that number one, it might be like asking you to pick a favorite child. And number two, I have a feeling it might be a little bit biased. So we didn't have you rank them, but opinions will be forthcoming. Well, speaking of the Leprechaun, let's find out the rankings for these movies, because this was one of the wildest rides for rankings that I've seen. Almost every single ranking that came in was wildly different than the last one. So the rankings changed with every new list I got. The rankings would change. So it was pretty wild. But there was one movie that stood out among the rest, and that is our dead last film. I had predicted that this would be the very first time that we had a dead last sweep where every single person picked the same movie, but that did not happen. But at 175 points, lowest ranking was 184, and with 175 was Leprechaun Origins.
Yeah.
I think everyone was expecting this. I thought that it would have swept it, but it was ranked dead last 19 times. Its highest ranking was second place, and there was only one vote out of 23 votes that was not in 7th or 8th place. On this panel right here, the people that you're looking at, every single one of us rated it dead last. So we all hated it. So, I mean, who hated it the most? I feel like Mikey might have hated this the most.
I'm gonna disappoint you. Actually, I gotta tell you, it's not a bad movie, really.
Yes,
I mean,
no, it is.
I mean, but if this came out and it was called literally anything else, you might just be like, all right, it's a passable, like, goofy, very very like new millennium stupid movie. You know what I mean? It is what it is. But I don't understand. It has nothing to do with Leprechaun. It's like it takes itself way too seriously. It doesn't have anything to do with the entire franchise. It's just, I don't know. So it is ridiculous. But at the end of the day, it's like, if you just saw this on Shudder or Sci-Fi Channel or something like that, like, wouldn't it be, anything like Boglin? It's Boglin. Look at the new horror movie Boglin. Oh, that's forgettable. And you just go on to the next thing. You know what I mean? But it's definitely on this list, inarguably dead last, if you ask me.
I know that Mikey and I have disagreed on many of a dead last episodes, but I don't think that we've ever disagreed so much as this, because I think if you had called this movie like Wood Creature or something like that, I still absolutely would have hated this movie. It's like every single, like, all of the characters are just like just nails on a chalkboard annoying to me. Like, they're all these really, really crappy stereotypes of like young adults. The whole storyline with the villagers doesn't make any sense. The monster is the worst. It's the worst monster. And the fact that, like, they can't even show you the monster. It's like they're so unconfident of their own monster suit that they have to, like, put this weird blur effect on it every time you see it. Because it's like, well, can't have anybody actually seeing what it looks like. I mean, what would that cause? People wouldn't like this movie. But even just the storyline is nothing interesting happens. After watching the movie, you kind of forget that you watched it because nothing in it stood out to remember and be like, oh, remember that?
I remember being very confused because, like, I get it, right? Because you have a franchise, and the franchise over time, you have so many installments that it just gets away from you, right? Freddy becomes this thing that he never was meant to be, and he's slapstick and he's making jokes, and then a remake comes along, and you want to get back to the origins of that character and reclaim it as a serious horror movie and make it scary again, right? But that's not the Leprechaun series. Like, that's not how he started. It's not like you're reclaiming. What is the point of this remake? I don't get it at all. It's confusing. It's not anything. It doesn't belong in the series at all. It's 0% something I want with the word leprechaun on it. It is inarguably dead last, I think. I can't even imagine what movie you would put below this movie. Like, it just confuses the hell out of me.
You bring up a good point, though, because it's origins, right? So what is it the origins of? Are they implying there's going to be more of these movies and this is the origin? Or are they saying that this is the origin of the Warwick Davis Leprechaun? Because that makes no sense.
I can't agree with you guys more. You know, when you think of a movie that had the name Origins in it, I was going in with high hopes saying, wow, this could be cool. They could actually take, Warwick Davis's legacy of the, previous films and explain him a little better, maybe talk about how he became a leprechaun or how his, family in Ireland transformed into leprechaun. I mean, I don't know, who knows? But when you mention a name such as Origins, you get in your head built up excitement thinking you're going to get a backstory, and all you got was a weird snarling creature with night vision that looked terrible on camera. I mean, it reminded me almost like of the Descent creatures. The Descent was a decent movie, but the creature almost had that look to it. And I'm thinking to myself, how is that a leprechaun? I mean, it's not even green. And, I feel bad for Hornswoggle because they could have used him, the character from WWE, because he plays an actual leprechaun, on WWE television back in the day. Make him look more like him, paint him up and have him be a little creature rather than just make it look like a demonic, I don't know. The thing made no sense to me whatsoever. So I definitely rank that dead last.
Have you even seen it? Have you even
No, I haven't seen it. But maybe I shouldn't rush to it, right? Not so good.
I do not blame you. Yeah, the no rush. So pass.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on now to the number 7 spot with 123 points. That's a pretty big jump from 175 down to 123. Is Leprechaun 6 Back to the Hood. This movie was ranked dead last one time. It did also get ranked first place twice, and it placed in every single score except for second place. On the panel, Bo and I both had it ranked the lowest. We had it in 7th place, which is where it ended up here. Derek had it pretty similarly in 6th place, and Mikey had it in 5th place. So this film was on the lower end of pretty much all of our lists, although I do want to emphasize that I actually still, even though this one's 7th place for me, I still actually get a kick out of it. Like, I enjoy Back to the Hood. It's actually still an enjoyable movie for me. It's just it's like they tried to make it a little bit more serious than the previous ones, and it was darker, which I kind of liked. And that's one of the things I like about it, is almost that they tried to make Leprechaun a little bit more intimidating in this, and it was a little bit more evil, like tearing off police officers' legs and things like that at random. But it just overall, the tone of it didn't work for me. It wasn't as much fun. It didn't stand out as much as some of the other ones. But Bo, you had this ranked 7th place, and I don't know, did you still enjoy this one either as well, or not so much?
I didn't enjoy it at all, to be honest. I mean, the only thing I liked was that he was smoking bong loads with the homies. I mean, Other than that, I mean, there was a couple cool gore scenes, like you said, with the cop getting his legs ripped off, but it was just a slow burn for me. And I was like, dude, get to the point. You know, what's going on here? It's just like in between playing basketball and talking and trying to, hit on chicks. I was just like, you know what? This thing is, in my opinion, second to dead last. I mean, it was just slow and boring for me.
Origins is the only movie on this list that I do not like and didn't enjoy at least watching. The rest of these movies I think are fun in one way or another. But the biggest disappointment for Back to the Hood for me is that we're back to the hood. Like after space and going to the hood the first time, I'll send him somewhere new. Send him to the moon. Send him back in time. Send him to Atlantis. I don't know. Put him in the internet. I want to see the Leprechaun go places he can't go, places it makes no sense for him to go. And it's really disappointing that they just send him back to the hood. I guess that film grossed enough money that they were like, all right, let's just send him back. And it feels too much like a retread to me. But it is fun. It's entertaining.
The backstory of this was too that they actually the original plan for Leprechaun 6 was actually to take place on a tropical island. It was going to be an island resort Leprechaun movie, but because Lep in the Hood did so well on video, they actually scrapped the plan and they changed it.
It's weird because it's like the first In the Hood has a very specific thing that it's doing, and to go, oh, that really worked, let's try it again, and then do a completely different thing. Like they try to make it too serious. You're actually getting like decent actors. They're like really trying. I mean, we've seen these people in different stuff, and we don't have like a rap icon. We don't have any real fun. There's a few like kind of niche in-joke hood jokes, but it's not the same. It's got that kind of vibe. It almost feels like after school special, like this was going to be a youth center, you know what I mean, for the kids, like, but now there's an evil creature coming at it. It doesn't really, and that's kind of why it's definitely lower than the first Hood for me. But at the same time, it's like he looks dark. There's a couple cool kills in there. The makeup's a little scarier. He's trying to be a little scary, and it's still just the whole concept, the idea that that's what we're watching is Leprechaun back in the hood again is so ridiculous that it's just fun.
I definitely, one other thing I'll point out too is that this is probably one of the nicest looking Leprechaun movies. It's the most well shot.
It's weird. It's like they're slicing the garlic even more. Now they're going to the hood and then they're going back to the hood. Yeah. I remember the shooting was fun. I remember the shooting was in a couple areas that weren't so great, that there was some real gunfire late at night. And it was the same old stupid joke where you didn't know if it was gunfire on the set, but it was a relatively small production. So you knew it wasn't us or second unit. And then there would be a little bit of a panic and everyone was told to head over to the trailers and this park, and everyone would settle down for 15 minutes. And it in its own way, we felt protected and seemed harmless, but that was interesting. And that went on a few nights for the long night shootings when we were in Eastern LA. That's where that was happening.
Well, that takes us to our number 6 spot movie, which actually was fairly close in points with the number 7, with 119 points. I guess it's fitting because it's close in theme, because it's Leprechaun 5, Lep in the Hood. This movie was never ranked in dead last, but it was ranked in 7th place 8 times. But it did get first place 1 time, and this one placed in every single score except for dead last. Dead last was the only ranking that it did not get. On this panel, Bo had it ranked the lowest at 6th place, Derek in 5th, Mikey in 4th, and I had it ranked the highest in 3rd place because I get a kick out of it. But Bo, sounds like you did not, because you had it ranked a little bit on the lower end of things. So what was it about Lep in the Hood that did not strike your fancy?
In the beginning, I enjoyed it. Seeing Ice-T, on screen with the Leprechaun was pretty fun. I thought that the originality of it was cool. It was a cool concept that, he went to the hood. You get a a leprechaun showing up in downtown Chicago or wherever the hood is. I guess I can't remember where it was, but you got him rapping at the end, which was fun. But I just thought, like, really, I mean, if you're gonna have it be serious enough to where he's fighting off gangsters and then he joins them singing a rap song, it's so ridiculous that I had to at least give my opinion on why I ranked so low. It's a fun film. I mean, like I said, it was original concept to bring him into a hood. I mean, you can't go wrong with if you're looking for a wacky, weird, crazy leprechaun movie. But seeing how serious it was in the beginning and then how goofy it like progressed, I thought like it's kind of up and down. But it was worth watching and fun for me, I guess.
I don't know, man. Ice-T's pulling a lot of stuff out of his afro in that first scene. Like, I don't know.
That's what I said. The beginning
was how serious it starts, but if you give me Leprechaun in the Hood, and by the end credits, Warwick Davis is not rapping in this film, then you failed. And But thankfully they do. They make him rap. The whole movie is about the music, which is cool. They got that. It has that new stuff, that new element of the magic flute that kind of hypnotizes people and then makes you successful. And I like that. I think that's pretty cool. I like the music industry aspect of it. I like Ice-T. I think Ice-T brings a lot of gravitas. I don't know what he's bringing to this thing, but he brings a certain air of enjoyment that I like. I wish there was more Ice-T in the movie. You get a little bit of that in the throwback scenes in the 70s, and those are cool. But yeah, come on. It's Leprechaun in the Hood. This movie's a good time.
This block is like my favorite block, and it is because of what we're talking about, where it's the idea of you can take the leprechaun and just put him in any environment, and you can kind of just make a movie about that, but then just have the leprechaun there. And this kind of feels like one of those 90s like Kids in the Hood kind of a movie. It felt like that same sort of movie. Like it had the same racial stereotypes. It had the obvious like homophobia and transphobia showing up in there, which was prevalent in every single one of those movies from the 90s, which is it's not a very pleasant scene. But I mean, that was that whole genre. It's almost like a satire of that genre with the leprechaun thrown into the mix, which is why I kind of liked it. It's goofy, it's dumb, and it's just that right kind of dumb, because it is absurd. But I feel like everyone's still kind of being sincere. Like everyone's like still trying.
Yeah, you bring up an interesting point that, I would sometimes wonder, or people would ponder as to what keeps some form of a connection with the film. And I know, speaking for myself, or maybe me and Warwick, that we would take our specific jobs very seriously. So it's like, okay, I know what the character is. I know how to dial it in for this. And Warwick would turn on his performance. And I think even if sometimes there was maybe a slight dismissal of the subject matter, or it was wading into really being an easy target, maybe the fact that both Warwick and I were like, no, we've said yes. If you say yes to a job, you should go for it, or just politely pass on it if you're not going to be fully committed. So by us being fully committed to it, with being in on the joke enough to understand it, but at the same time being fully professionally responsible to serve the film, that maybe that tiny bit of integrity we brought to it keeps it tethered to where people who watch it know that there is some DNA that has heart to it. That's like, no, we said, yes, we're going to go for it. Even if all else is going crazy, if this fractional amount is grounded, maybe it echoes through the whole film.
The flute thing too kind of blows me away, because I don't know much about actual Leprechaun lore, but what does a flute have to do with anything if not just pointing back at that viral video from Alabama where there's the leprechaun sighting, and you got that one guy in the news report. It's like,
this is a special leprechaun flute which has been passed down from thousands of years ago from my great-great-grandfather who was Irish. I just came to help out.
Is that what they're doing? Are they just kind of referencing that viral video at this time, or is it too early for that? I don't know.
I think it's too early.
I think it was too early.
Yeah.
So what
before that video?
Is that a real thing, or is Leprechaun and flute at all connected? I don't know. I have no
Well,
idea.
let's consult Leprechaun Origins for that. Oh, wait. Yeah.
Wait,
Not going to be able to do that.
To me, it look like a leprechaun to me. All you gotta do is look up in the tree. Who else seen the leprechaun say yeah?
And that one guy's got that kind of ongoing joke, like he's still a virgin and stuff like that. Like, when you gonna get some, And I love that guy. His name's Red Grant. He's like a stand-up comedian. He pops up in other hood movies of the time as well, and he's pretty awesome. I love those three guys. I just, and then they cut to their like little rap scenes and stuff like that, and it's so horribly cheesy that it just makes it so much better.
So with fifth place now, with 113 points, is Leprechaun 4, Lep in Space, which was ranked dead last one time. Although it was ranked in first place 2 times. It placed in every single score. Every single number was represented. It got first, second, third, all of them, including dead last. On the panel, Mikey had this ranked the lowest in 6th, Bo with 5th, Derek in 3rd place, and I had it ranked the highest. I gave it 2nd place because I love Leprechaun in Space. But Mikey, you didn't, because you gave it 6th place. But so what? How do you feel about this one?
That's not even that I didn't like it. I kind of love it. You know what I mean? Like, it's so ridiculous, and it's like that's exactly what you're thinking you're gonna get from a Leprechaun in Space. I mean, it's Jason X Leprechaun. It's so stupid that now we're in space and he's growing and we don't know. I mean, he's like giant leprechaun at one point. You got this ridiculous group of space marines and all their nonsense, and they have a disco on their ship or whatever they're doing. I don't know. They're like drinking blue milk in a cantina randomly with like neon lights. I don't know. It's just fun. You got what's her name from Tool Time is like running around like shooting at the leprechaun with space marine guns. I have no problem with it whatsoever, other than I just like the other ones better.
Again, I love this whole block because it is just putting the leprechaun in these different scenarios. And if you just had something different as the leprechaun, it's a space movie. It's like somebody wanted to make a space movie and have all the trappings of like this bizarre outer space adventure, and then just had the leprechaun in there. They never call him the leprechaun. Yeah, they took it all over the top. I mean, you have a robot sergeant dancing in drag. You have Mitten Spider. You have your lead girl's pants just randomly getting torn off so she can run around in the final half of the movie in her underpants just because. And that's the kind of stuff that I like.
This is exactly what I want from this franchise. Take him and put him somewhere. Does this movie care how the leprechaun got to space? Nope. Does it even bother to explain how he got there? Nope. Why is he chasing after this space queen? Why can he travel up a stream of urine into someone's junk? Why can he then reemerge on the spaceship? It makes no sense. It has no interest in explaining anything. It's funny. It's weird. It's Brian Trenchard Smith again, who's the guy that did part 3. And I think those two together make for what I want from this series. Plug the leprechaun in and just let him loose. And I think it's fun, man. I enjoy watching Leprechaun in Space.
I remember that being really difficult because there was just such a huge volume, as you said, of effects in there. It was like the leprechaun was the least of it. There was a spider monster. There were a lot of weirdo makeup effects where I appreciated the director, Brian Trenchard Smith, where we just were like, well, what do you want to do with it? And I'm like, well, can we go to cartoon land here? Can we do this or that? Once you kind of understood the breed of the film, it was open to a lot of wacky stuff that, again, seemed to serve the film right. So it was just an enormous build list on that, but that made it really fun.
I think it was fun for what it was worth. I mean, it's definitely silly. It's a love story too. I mean, he jumps on a grenade to save his princess. I mean, and the fact that he came busting out of a soldier's penis. I mean, you can't go wrong. I mean, he literally just said, "Hey, I'm going to join this guy's testicles and his, just go out his penis." So I mean, in space. I mean, it's in space. So, but no, it was fun. I mean, it was definitely goofy at times, and I was thinking, how could a movie be released so crazily goofy like that? But I mean, you're talking about a leprechaun for no reason being in space fighting off futuristic soldiers. It was definitely enjoyable to watch, and I was amused. Yeah, I mean, it's not the highest, it's not the lowest on my rankings, but it was worth the watch.
I will say though, if he is in fact traveling up the urine stream of that one space marine, then that makes sense because of the golden shower. He can use the gold connection to travel through urine, which we didn't know.
Okay, so now moving us up into the top half of the list with number 4, and these next 4, the points were really tight. We're getting really tight. So with 95 points, I think Derek is about to be really bummed out right here, is Leprechaun 2. So Leprechaun 2 was actually ranked dead last twice. It was ranked first placed one time, and very similar to part 4, it also placed in every single score. On the panel, I had it ranked the lowest. I had it in 6th place. Mikey had it in 3rd place. Bo in 2nd. And Derek had it in 1st place. So this was his favorite Leprechaun. So Derek, what gave this one the edge for you?
One, St. Patrick's Day. This is the one that's giving you the Leprechaun during St. Patrick's Day. He goes to the bar. He gets drunk himself, which is awesome. That's what I want to see. I want to see the Leprechaun get drunk. There's other leprechauns running around. People kind of excuse his existence. They're like, oh, look at that. There's a little leprechaun. It's in LA. That's kind of fun. He drives a go-kart. I like that. And you get to see the Leprechaun back in Ireland in the past, which is what I want to see. I want a whole movie that's the beginning of Leprechaun 2. Like, I want that. That's what I want from Leprechaun Origins. He's looking for his bride. Like, it's really weird. It's kind of like a Freddy's Revenge almost, where it's not the story that you're getting with Leprechaun in the other ones. But I mean, I guess they're all like that. They're all sort of like, what's going on? Like, I don't know. I like Leprechaun 2.
Well, I am root crude and tattooed. So the main thing I loved about this film is that the leprechaun, he's getting hammered off of Irish whiskey in a bar. That's my style, man. I love Irish whiskey and I love getting hammered. So, to include, to include the leprechaun around St. Patty's Day, I mean, it's awesome seeing that. I think that the story was kind of a little bit hit and miss. I think that, like, Derek said, they could have made it where if it's part 2, they should have given a little bit of backstory in Ireland, a little bit more, and shown why he is what he is. I mean, and that's, I think, out of all the Leprechaun movies, even with Origins in the beginning, I kind of thought, wow, maybe they'll take it to where it's all started, and tell a backstory. But, he's running around and he gets blown up and he, does some crazy stuff in Hollywood, driving go-karts, like Derek said. It's a fun film, man. I really enjoyed it.
That girl, I have a hard time with that girl. I think she's terrible, but it kind of makes it fun in some way. I don't know. As far as the rest of the cast, I love them. I love that Morty guy. I love those kids. I love the fact that they have this whole haunted tour of LA thing, which is actually a thing in LA, and in a hearse and stuff. It kind of feels like a fun 90s horror movie in that way. It's a great sequel. It's a great movie. I love Warwick Davis. He's got some fun rhymes and stuff in that one. And that's something that I don't like that we lose at certain points, is his kind of like, rhymey style of talking and stuff like that. Some of the ones have more cheese than others in certain sequels, but that makes him the Leprechaun to me, and I love it.
I kind of feel bad because I have this one ranked as 6th place, which obviously is the lowest of the bunch of us. But I do have to stress that I really enjoy Leprechaun 2. I think it's a lot of fun. Like, I love the whole trapping the leprechaun in the safe thing with Morty's belly. And Morty, you're right. The guy nails that role, and he's obviously having a lot of fun playing that character. And it is a lot of fun. And it worked. I think it's the one where they realized that these movies should be crazy, and there's a lot about this that I do love, I guess this is just one of those instances where there was 5 movies where I found more that I loved than this one.
The relationship of the old guy and the kid was pretty funny. How a lot of times the characters that support a horror lead become there to just be wailed on and destroyed. So I thought it was interesting that old guy, he was cracking me up. He was funny on set, and he came across pretty well in the film too. Yeah. It was good that they did stuff with that. And I actually think seniors are always much more interesting to watch anyway, whether they're killed or not. They're funnier. There's like more life experience, or they just seem more real. I don't know.
Cody.
Yeah?
I can never stay mad at you.
Who is this girl? Where did she come from? Is she foreign? Is she deaf? Is she just a bad actress? I love her. Everything she says is weird. It sounds weird. Everyone's screaming in this movie for no reason. Like, this movie's ridiculous. I love Leprechaun 2.
It's one of the best, like, weirdest horror movie relationships they have too. Like, are they together? Are they not? Is it a love triangle with the go-kart guy? What is she trying? She's trying to play these dudes off each other. What's up? I don't know.
She's weird. I love her. She's terrible, and I love every minute of it.
Cody, we're going to the go-kart park, not the Indy 500.
Well, then that brings us to number 3, which is kind of odd because it's the most recent of these movies, but with 81 points is Leprechaun Returns, one of the 2 movies on this list that do not feature Warwick Davis as the Leprechaun. The lowest ranking that it got is it did get placed in 7th place 3 times, and it was ranked number 1 3 times as well, too. So a little bit of a balance there. On this panel, Mikey and Derek, you guys both ranked it in 7th place. I ranked it in 5th place. And Bo, you ranked it in 3rd place, the highest of the group. I will say the panel members of Derek and Mikey, and actually somebody associated with Mikey, were the only 3 people that rated this lower than 5th place. Every other mark it got was above 5th place. But Bo, you had this ranked the highest of us. You had this in 3rd place. So obviously you had a little bit more appreciation for this one than some of the others.
I found it to be a really, really cool horror movie. I like the fact that they take it back to the beginning. I feel this should have been part 2 in a way. I guess it is kind of part 2, without the saying that it's part 2. But the only thing that's missing is, I wish it would have been Warwick, because if it would have been Warwick in this film, it would have probably been ranked number 1 for me almost, because I felt that the brutal kills were awesome. I like the storyline where it's Jennifer Aniston's daughter. She returns to the well and the house. And you got, Francis, Ozzy, man, from Pee Wee Herman. You got him returning on screen, and he looked really super old, and I felt bad for him, but he was still kicking ass and playing a really fun character. And the fact that the brutal kills were there, it spoke volumes for me. There was a lot of blood and guts, which I like.
I feel like I'm contradicting myself here, because one of my favorite bits about the Leprechaun series is each movie you're getting something completely different. But I did like that this one actually kept continuity with the first one. I think because it was 25 some years in between the 2 movies, it was nice to see those things. It kind of, it kicked that little nostalgic bit right where it kind of needed to. It's just like, but thankfully it wasn't just nostalgia. It wasn't just like, hey, remember this? Remember this? Here's that house, remember? Like, it actually did play into the plot of the movie, so it wasn't nostalgia for nostalgia's sake. It was actually a nice throwback. I thought that the inclusion of a Jennifer Aniston sound-alike in there was pretty clever, and it was fun. But overall, I enjoyed. I feel the same way, where I think I would have had this ranked higher. Was it Warwick Davis? Because it probably would have. It definitely would have been way more of that nostalgia love.
This is a fun Leprechaun movie, right? It's like it's Halloween H40, but for Leprechaun. We're gonna give you the real, true sequel. We're gonna put all the characters, or at least Ozzy, and like you said, her mom, Jennifer Aniston's character, at least the voice of it. And we're going to tell the story from that point. But at the end of the day, I'm watching a Leprechaun movie because I want to see Warwick Davis play this character. And if you don't have Warwick Davis as the Leprechaun, I'm less interested in your movie. And if you're not giving me, and I don't like that guy. I don't think that guy, I hate his Leprechaun. He's annoying. I don't like his voice. I don't like any of the stuff he's doing. I don't like his jokes. I don't like his whole demeanor. I think this would have been a sequel for the ages had it actually had Warwick in it, but it doesn't. And it just feels like,
I love Steve Kostansky. I love everything he's done, honestly. And I think this is a good movie. Like, it's a cool sequel to the first movie. Like you said, it's you know, carrying over most of the stuff from that first one, especially Mark Holton, who I love, you know, Francis S. Buxton, you know what I mean? I'm all about it. And I think he does a great job. As far as the production and especially the effects, I think they're great. A lot of cool gore things. I think it's just not the same. You know what I mean? If you don't have Warwick Davis, you don't have a Leprechaun sequel to me. If you don't have Gabe Bartalos doing the makeup, again, you don't have a Leprechaun sequel. You know, he's one of the only guys in a horror franchise that basically kept it going, you know, as the makeup, you know, head the entire time. And you don't have that, you don't have Leprechaun. So if I honestly would have had this really high, if you had Warwick Davis in there, if you had Gabe Bartalos, and if it was just a little something extra, a little something to keep it anchored in Leprechaun, other than, you know, what they did try to do. That being said, it's not a bad horror movie. You know, it's pretty cool.
There was so much fun in all the Leprechauns we were on, especially Warwick and I, like those 6, that you know, it's always fun to reinterpret, and like, it's almost like, I'm not selfish. We had a blast. If a new team of people and find that success and have that fun and make their money or whatever, more power to them. Things are always cyclical. It's good if another team comes in and reimagines it. I haven't seen it, but again, we had such a blast at all levels of it. So if they're having fun, or it can lead to some other team having fun, I hope they do. And if they get the same little family feel and a buddy for life, you know, kind of stuff, I think that's great.
Well, thankfully, the top 2 movies on this list do both feature Warwick Davis as the Leprechaun, and this was the closest running that we've had since the Stephen King episode. Only 2 points difference between number 2 and number 1. And number 2, with 62 points, is the original Leprechaun film.
yes.
The lowest ranking it got was 6th place, but it was ranked number 1 7 times. On this panel, me and Derek both had it ranked in 4th place, and Mikey and Bo had it ranked in 1st place. So Mikey, I could see the disappointment on your face with this being ranked not top spot.
I'm an original guy. Like the original is always, you know, it always means the most to me in most cases. And I love that. I love what they did with this character. They set up a franchise. Here it comes. This is like, you know, we're trying to do Freddy, you know, light in some way, in more ways than one. And like, here's a little Freddy, and it's got its obvious connection to a holiday, which is typical horror, you know, style. I like the cast. I like that they're not kids. You know, I mean, you have adults that are scared of this little character. I love the makeup. You know, I love Warwick Davis. He's my favorite, and I like the fact that he was just like an instant horror icon, an instant classic. And I don't know, I can't really say anything bad about this movie. I love it, you know, especially because what it sets up and what it becomes. You know, looking at this, you know, 8 movie list that we just did is pretty awesome.
I honestly, with these first 4, I moved them around. I had each one in a different place every time I put this list together. I love the first 4 Leprechauns. It's like, and what is the thing that really made me put this one lower is the fact that you're getting less Warwick Davis. when you see him though, he's great. He's on the little tricycle at like 12 frames a second. It's awesome. Like that's everything I want to see from this character. I just want more of it. But I mean, come on, this cast is great. You got Jennifer Aniston, you got Larry from Summer School, you got what's his name from the kid from Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead, and you got Francis S. Buxton. So like this is a great cast. This is a great little horror movie. This feels a little less crazy and ridiculous than the other Leprechaun. So that's why I put it a little lower. It's not my number one pick for Leprechaun, even though I love it. I love Leprechaun. Come on, get real.
Yeah, 1993. I was 13 years old. I'll never forget the first time I rented this film, and I fell in love with it back then, and I still love it now. I mean, it's fun. You got a hot Jennifer Aniston. It's her first role in a movie ever. You got Francis S. Buxton, like everyone said, Pee Wee Herman, which we all fell in love with Teen Wolf and Pee Wee Herman. He's a great character. Some of the scenes were actually shot out here in Simi Valley at Big Sky Ranch, which is my hometown. So that's cool, knowing that the originality was filmed out here in the 805. It's just a really cool movie, man. And, obviously I grew up watching, Warwick Davis and Willow and everything. And he was just so awesome to see him turn into, a horror legend that he became off of this, first film he did when it comes to the horror industry. And he does it well, man. I mean, he plays a really killer, cool leprechaun. I mean, I don't think there has ever been a small person out there that has, like Mikey said, that has stamped his name in an industry so much more than him when it comes to horror. Warwick's the man.
I think the reason for me that kept it out of my top 3 was the tone. Like it is kind of clear that they didn't know what kind of movie they were aiming for. Like they were trying to make something kind of family friendly, but then the studio didn't want that, so they tried to ramp up the horror bits, and it kind of feels very uneven. Whereas I feel all of the later ones, they knew what they wanted. They wanted to make silly, over the top, crazy horror movies with a Freddy-ish character. That said, it is a lot of fun. It's great to see Jennifer Aniston. I mean, in her first role. The final role for her nose, Kevin Bacon's Bizarro clone kind of popping in there for a little bit. There's so much to enjoy in Leprechaun. Obviously, it set the path for 7 more movies after that, and I don't feel as if it's the most revered of franchises. But it's its own niche. It's gonna have its own little bit in history, and I think it's deserved. I love Leprechaun. I said it like Derek. I love Leprechaun. Come on.
I thought it was cool how they were clearly trying to make like a comic book movie. The color palette of the film there was care taken to light it, so it had these really vibrant colors. Which was also smart, because dealing with the subject matter of like a leprechaun, how do you diffuse the initial what the heck and say no, it's like the Warriors or something. It's in the context of this weird cartoon world in a sense, and it's hard when you're working on a film. You have no idea if the beats are going to be good. You may see stuff that's really effective on set, but by the time it goes through editorial, sound design, and you're like, oh, well, that didn't have the same oomph, and then vice versa. Something you may roll your eyes at suddenly is really tight and comes off great.
And that takes us to our number 1 spot. In the beginning, in the first couple of rankings I got, this movie looked to be the very clear winner. And then I started getting more rankings, and its lead just kept dropping and dropping and dropping and dropping. But with 60 points, just 2 points higher than Leprechaun, is Leprechaun 3. The lowest ranking that this movie got was 5th place, and it was ranked first place 7 times, just like the first Leprechaun. They each got 7 number 1 nods. On this panel, Bo had it ranked the lowest in 4th place. Mikey and Derek both had it in 2nd place, and I had it in 1st place because this is my favorite Leprechaun movie. I feel like it's the one that establishes what I love about the Leprechauns, which is, hey, let's just take the Leprechaun to a different environment, let him loose, and see what happens. And that kind of is set up here because the whole premise of this is just Leprechaun in Vegas. All of the tropes of a Vegas thing, pawn shops, casinos, magic acts, all that stuff, let's just throw it in there and see how the Leprechaun deals with it. And this movie establishes that, and I think it really does take advantage of those things really well. It has some great fun performances. Everyone seems like they're having a blast. You've got Caroline Williams popping in there doing her thing. It's still a ton of fun and really enjoyable.
I mean, basically what you just said. This establishes the inject Leprechaun here formula. And I think it's the least ridiculous of that formula, where there's tons of money, there's tons of gold around, there's tons of greed, there's tons of shady things going on. And the Leprechaun it's a great place to just kind of let him loose. And yeah, what is going on with he bites that guy and then he turns into like a brother leprechaun who's like really into eating potatoes and like starts getting the Irish accent. What a bizarre side plot to just kind of throw in the Leprechaun 3. Oh, I like that they're just like, he's a stone statue. And like, they're just like, we don't explain this. We've never talked about this before, but now here's a rule of the Leprechaun movies. He's a stone, and you got to have the amulet on him. And if you take the amulet off, well, now you're screwed because the Leprechaun's alive. What? Like, what is that? Now it's this. Go with it.
I think that's, again, a good connection I had with Brian, the director, that he embraced the Yahoo nature of it and wanted the kills and the deaths to be reflective of that, which were fine for me. Way more interesting than just slicing someone.
Yeah.
It was cool because he would take the time to there's like an insert of the ass growing into door jamb cracks. And I remember just like clapping, like, that's great. Like, instead of like, whatever, the gag tells the story, he added little inserts to make it seem bigger and better. It was good.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. It's almost like the Dream Warriors of this franchise, and the fact that like we are getting a fully realized Leprechaun, like you said. It's ridiculous. There's wishes. There's all these over the top characters that are going through whatever they're going through, including Caroline Williams, who is another legend in the whole genre. So the fact that she's in there is amazing. I love her. There's cool gags. There's really fun, ridiculous Leprechaun action. He's one of my favorites. His performance in that one is one of my favorites of all the whole entire franchise. I love the effects. I Gabe Bartalos again, and I love that crazy Carolyn Williams inflating into this like monstrous plastic surgery victim or whatever. It's so ridiculous and it's so Vegas and silly, and like you guys were saying, injecting this horror character into just another place for no reason. It's like, here he is in Las Vegas. Let's see what happens. It's fun as hell.
Yeah, I mean, it was tough to rank this so low because I did enjoy it. There's a lot of fun scenes in there where he gets thrown out the 12-story window, and Caroline Williams scene for me made me pop because I love how she is just down to do not just serious roles that she's done, but she's also a team player to do a goofy role like that, where she gets blown up, her lips and her breasts and everything, she gets inflated and blows up. But it's fun, man. I mean, this was a really good movie. The thin line there when it starts to get really stupid goofy, and then it's still can be considered a really fun horror movie.
Good character actor. Even that guy, when he starts going Leprechaun, like you start actually liking him, and you kind of hate him in the beginning, and then you start kind of liking him, and that guy that plays Mitch, like that kind of tycoon dude that runs the casino, is awesome. Like it's just fun.
Vegas, my kind of town.
For the potential easy target that Leprechaun can be, that for the 6 that I was involved in, that it actually, yes, they're all absurd, but within that world, they still hang on and can entertain. Like the absurdity was channeled with a sense of earnest through it without just being so flip about it that it became disposable. And, it creates this body of work, this series that is still being, discussed and chewed on. It's cool.
Okay, so there you have it. There's 8 Leprechaun films, and all of their rankings, which I feel pretty good. I feel pretty good. Let's take a look at this ranking. I feel pretty good about these numbers. There's a lot of things in here that are where they should be. There's a couple in here that I personally would have had higher than others. But I'm not mad about anything in here. I'm certainly not mad about Origins being dead last. That's for sure. And I'm not mad about Part 3 being in the top spot, because I that's where I ranked it. It's my favorite one. But I enjoyed the hell out of all these. But I'm sure that we'll hear some differing opinions down below in the comments. Feel free to tell us what your favorite Leprechaun movie is. And maybe some guys out there want to defend Origins. I don't know. Maybe Origins is somebody's favorite Leprechaun movie. I don't know who that would be their favorite of the Leprechaun movies, but I'm sure there's somebody out there. But I don't know. I do want to thank all of my panelists for coming on board. Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate you coming on for this episode. I also want to thank our special guest, Gabe Bartalos, for popping in and giving his insights.
It's my pleasure. Really appreciate being part of it. And it's really fun to hear all the rankings and stuff. So, yeah, long live Leprechaun. It's great.
Yeah, and everyone has to make sure that they go rent or buy today St. Bernard. Go check it out and enjoy it, because if you like the Leprechaun movies, you've got the 2 crucial component to the best of those movies right there in it. So you've got Gabe Bartalos and you've got Warwick Davis together, and obviously, what other reasons does anybody need to watch a movie right there? So
there you go. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much for coming in. It's very awesome. And I want to thank the patrons for sending in your rankings as well, and for participating in this episode. Thank you, guys. And hopefully you're at work on the next episodes, although by the time that this airs, you'll probably be on to the episode after that. So get to work and watching those movies. And thank you guys for watching this video and coming on board and sticking with this channel and doing all those things that you do, liking and subscribing, all that good stuff, and sharing and fun. But that's it. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and we'll see you very shortly for another great video. Thank you, guys. See you later. Happy
hood, but do no
good. We all try to do it at the same time.
That sounds so ridiculous.
Got the hat.
You got your hat. You have to wear it.
You want to wear? You want to wear my hat?
Again.